Alright, so here is the Mobula6 2024 edition, and I'm going to be going through a few mods of this. Some of them will be upgrades and some of them will be downgrades, according to some of you guys out there, because it might add a bit of weight to this. So I'm going to just jump straight into it. I'll go through the different mods that I'll be doing to it, and then at the end I'll give you my thoughts about how this flies, because I know a lot of you guys out there just like the videos to just get straight into it. So I'm Gemfan, let's get into it. Alright, so here we are. I'm just going to do a quick unboxing. Comes with a few stickers. I'm not going to do this as a review. I'm just going to go straight into what I'm going to be doing as mod for this thing. So I've flown this around a bit already, bashed it around, and I think this is a lot more durable than the previous one, the V2. And I'm just going to go through and point out a few things that I'll be doing the mods to. So the first thing that I'm going to be doing is replacing this antenna here. So this is the Express LRS antenna, and it comes with just an enamel wire. And one thing I don't like about it is that it does bend quite a bit during crashes and it kind of goes out of shape. That's not really a big problem, but sometimes what I've noticed is that because of this bending, it does interfere with the VTX. So the signal for the VTX starts to go out, goes a bit fuzzy and a little bit of static and everything. So when I start straightening it up again, it then comes into kind of clearer picture. So I think it does interfere with it when it does bend down and flop down around here. So I'm going to replace it with this here. So this is just another antenna that has a UFL on the end of it. And what I'm going to do is actually measure this up to cut it perfectly to the right length, which I've done so far. And I'm going to cut this off and solder it to the bottom base here. So I might leave a bit of the black sheath on it just for a bit more durability. It's going to stick out a bit longer, but this, as you can see, is quite, I guess, flexible, and it does retain its shape. So hopefully this improves that and doesn't interfere with the VTX signal. The other thing I'm going to be doing is putting a bit more protection onto the main flight controller there, the main board, and I've designed and 3D printed this little, I don't know what to call it. You could probably guess what I'm thinking, but I'm gonna put this on here. So it's just a cover that covers the PCB and a lot of the components that are exposed on this end here. So some of the stuff that's inside is already protected. It's not going to really get damaged because of this canopy here, but this I think is exposing too much out here, so I'm just going to cover that up there. I think I don't have my scale with me right now. I've moved recently, so I can't find my scale. Once I do find the scale, I'll put up how much it weighs up on the screen here, and that's just going to be a bit of a downgrade for some of you out there who want to have this as light as possible. But I think I like to have things a bit more durable since I bashed it around quite a bit, so I'm going to put this on here. The next thing that I am going to be doing as an upgrade or a downgrade is battery protection. So before pulling it out and ripping it around and thrashing it as hard as I can, I like to put a bit of rubber on the end of it to prevent any unwanted things from happening. In this case, I 3D printed this small TPU cover that fits perfectly on the end here of the battery, and I install that there so it protects the end of the battery right up the front here. So I've got an example here of one of the batteries that I have bashed without having a cover on it. So you can see here it's getting crushed at the top end here, and because of the layers of the cells inside of this 1S, it's going to get damaged quite a bit and then start to puff up. So I believe it starts to short circuit between the layers and it's no longer going to be effective, and then start actually puffing up and get completely damaged and unusable. So I like to protect it a bit. It doesn't weigh that much. I think from memory it's 0.3 of a gram, which is quite a lot to you out there again, but I like to protect it because it makes my batteries last a lot longer. The next thing that I'll be doing to this quad is modifying the A30 plug here to be 180 degrees to the actual wires. So right now it's straight out from the wires here, and you'll see that when you put in a battery, it's a bit hard to even get the plug to go in like that. The battery has to go all the way forward, plug in like that, and then slip back a bit. And with that, the battery does sit quite proud out the front of the quad here, and it does get bashed when you do hit into things on the ground or into walls. So I want the battery to sit a little bit more centered, a bit further back, and I'm going to have to wire this up so that the A30 plug here is going to be 180 degrees to the wire. So I'll show you that in a moment when I start doing this mod. And one last mod that I'm going to be doing to this, and it's not really a mod, it's more just using different propellers on here, and these are the Gemfan 31mm 1219, and these are actually the propellers that originally came with the Mobula6 version 2. So you can see there, those are the same propellers, I believe, and I bought a few fresh spare sets and stuff, so I'll be using them on here. These ones that come with the Mobula6 2024 edition actually run quite nicely. I do like them. It does have some really good resolution and grip in the air as you hit hard corners, but I just want to play around with a little bit more higher pitch ones, which these are. So yeah, just another thing to play around with, and we switch propellers all the time, so this is just another mod that I want to do. Alright, so those are the mods. I'm going to jump in and start doing them now, and you'll see them as I go through step by step. Okay, so I'll start with the antenna. So from here, I'm just going to remove the original antenna, the enamel wire. I will be keeping it just in case I want to put it back on, and I'm just going to get the soldering iron and carefully, while holding the enamel wire, I'm just going to tap the base of it there. I'm not sure you can see it there, but I'm just going to be tapping it in there and then removing the wire. Okay, so there's the enamel wire out. I'll put that to the side, and we can save that for later if we need to. Alright, so one thing I want to check is, I know that this pad here of the antenna, and that's for the Express LRS ceramic or plastic tower antenna. So I know that this is where the signal is going to be receiving, and I need to check out of these 4 pads which one's going to be ground. So I can just use the ground of the quad. It's a bit hard to hold this, but using continuity checker, I'll bring this in. Using continuity checker, I'm gonna test that I am getting signal there, or at least the continuity, and I'll just hold it onto the negative terminal, which is ground, and I'll be looking out of the other 3 pads which one is going to be the ground one. So that one's ground, this one's not, so that's just I think it's just a dud pad just to hold the tower in. That one's a ground as well, so I'm gonna wire the outer sheath, the outer sheath of this antenna onto one of these grounds here. So I'm gonna wire up the sheath of the black antenna onto that, and then the other side, the signal, I'm gonna wire up to this side here. So I'm gonna get onto that now. So here with the antenna, I'm just gonna snip it off at about here, and I'll put up on the screen the length that is required for this. I can't remember exactly what it was. I think it's 31.3 or something like that millimeters. I'll put that up on the screen. Okay, so what I've just done here was remove a bit of the black sheath out of this, and I'm just going to spread out this, I guess the protective coaxial kind of shielding, and I don't want to take off too much, it's just a little bit, so that it exposes the middle one here, which is a signal, to be able to then receive the signal from the Express LRS controller. Okay, so I'm not sure if you can see it there, but I've moved the shielding all to one side there, and I'm gonna then strip off the clear plastic of the middle core there to be able to solder onto the signal of the flight controller. Okay, so I've exposed the middle of the core there, so that's the signal, and I'm just gonna tin these up and then solder it onto the flight controller. Okay, now that the wire is ready, I'm just gonna tin up the pads. So this one here is the signal of the Express LRS. Just being very careful not to touch any other pads on there. Alright, so it was a little bit difficult to get in there, and also the ground pad was a little bit hard to heat up. So I was able to get it anyway, and you can see it in there. It's a bit hard probably to see on camera, but I'm just going to do a continuity check just to make sure that I haven't bridged anything in there. So the ground one should still be on ground. I'll hold this on the ground of the battery lead and then touch it on the ground out here. Yep, so you can hear that, and the signal doesn't get that tone, so it's no continuity there, so that should be good. Alright, so the next thing I want to get onto is the A30 plug here. So I'm just going to have to undo the heat shrink and then turn it around and resolder it 180 degrees. Alright, the heat shrink is off. I'm just going to then undo this, and just remembering that on this side, the round side of the A30 plug, same with the BT2, is the ground side, so round is ground, and we just need to remember that. So desoldering this and then resoldering it, we know which side it's on. Okay, so you'll notice here that I've wired it up already, but it's going to be sitting too far back. The battery is going to be sitting all the way back here, and I don't like it to be back that far, so I'm going to trim off some of the battery lead here, and I'm going to try and set it about the battery about that far, I guess, in, and I guess I hope that I might have to just take about 1 or 10 millimeters off this and rewire it there. So I'll start off with 10 millimeters. I think that's about right, but I'd rather take off a little bit and then slowly inch it towards it. So I'll do that now. I'm just going to trim it up and then redo these again. Alright, so I've taken about 10 mils off the wire, the battery lead there, and just rechecking that. I think it's about right. So once I set the battery in, it's going to sit about there. Maybe a bit further back there, but I think that's quite nice, quite center, and not too far forward and not too far back. Okay, so now the A30 plug is now 180 degrees to the power leads here, so you can see it like that. And I couldn't finish showing you the rest of it because the camera battery ran out, but that's how it's going to sit. I've put a bit of heat shrink around it here, and to prevent any shorts between the battery leads inside here, I've put a bit of heat shrink between the two terminals where I was soldering, and I shrunk it in there, and then I also put some E6000 glue here around all of the terminals points there, and also onto the plastic A30 plug as well, so that I can actually heat shrink that all over on top of it. So that kind of keeps it nice and secure and actually holds it quite well. And when you tug the battery off the plug here, it doesn't actually slip off, so the glue kind of helps that. So that's how it sits. It's nice and neat, and it's quite easy. So I'll just show you plugging it in. Here's the battery going in, and it basically just slides back and fits in like this at the right distance. So that's how it sits, and it's quite balanced there, as you can see. You can see that I've also put on the shielding here that I printed out of TPU on top, and it just fits nicely there. I had to cut a little bit of it out there. I could modify the STL of the 3D print to actually take that into account as well, but it's quite easy just using a pair of scissors to cut it out, and it actually does protect those components just underneath there quite nicely. Like I mentioned before, it does add a bit of weight, but I'm willing to sacrifice that bit of weight for the extra protection there. Okay, so the last thing that I'm going to be doing is actually putting on the new props. So here they are. I'm just going to swap these out, and I'm going to actually mount them in with the props in. So with the quad facing forward like this propeller here, I'll be making it so that it turns inwards this way, so counterclockwise. This one will be turning clockwise, and the corresponding ones at the back here. So this one will be clockwise, and this one will be anti-clockwise. Sorry, counterclockwise this way. And so that's what I'll be doing now. Hey there, it's Nam from the future. I've actually flown it with this configuration with the props going inwards, and it actually doesn't run very well. The PID controller, I guess, doesn't work very well with it. I think it's tuned for the props to be spinning outwards. It's not the actual prop, because I switched it over with both props, the original ones and these Gemfan 1219s, and with the props going outwards, they fly quite well. So don't change it. I guess don't do what I'm doing here. I'm just showing you what I went through as an example. But yeah, just know that don't change the motor directions, just keep them as props out. Okay, so these props are really hard to get off. I've taken 3 off already, and I just thought I might as well show you how I've been getting them off, because you might struggle to use your fingers to even pinch the motor and pull the props off like this. It's pretty hard. I can't do it like that. I don't have a prop popper. I'd like to get one, but it's always out of stock and it's hard to get shipped here in Australia. But here's how I do it with the 2 small screwdrivers here. I place one underneath. I'm not sure you can see that or not, but I place it underneath there on one side, and I use another one on the opposite side, alternating like this. And it might be a bit hard for you to see there. Hopefully that might show through there. And I kind of push the ends of the prop hub up, and it's able to slide up off the prop shaft. So once I get it that high, just to get it off for most of it, and I can just then hold it and twist it off there. So that's how I do it. I'm not sure if that's the best way to do it, but that's the only way I can do it at the moment. It doesn't seem to damage the motor or the props or the prop shaft as well. It seems to hold it quite nicely, and yeah, that's how I do it. Okay, so now the props are off. These props are going on, so they're going to be, this one's going to be going counterclockwise, so just pressing that down. And this one will be the other one that's clockwise on this side. Yep. And this one will be clockwise, so I'll have to use this one here. And the last one. Alright, so the props don't actually go all the way down. It leaves about, let's say about 1 millimeter from the little nub underneath the prop shaft there. Sorry, the motor prop shaft. And this one I think can be down a little bit more. No, I can't press it anymore, so I won't want to force it. I don't want to bend the prop shaft. So as much as I can press it with my fingers, I'm just going to leave it like that. So there you go. Okay, so that's pretty much all the mods that I've mentioned that I'll be doing to this, and I'm just going to go into Betaflight and then change the motor ordering, change the motor direction. But the one thing I wanted to mention about this, I guess as a few points I thought about on this quad once receiving it, was the motor screws here are loose when I receive them. So they're not too loose, but they could take about maybe a quarter or maybe a half turn for each one of them. I've already done it to all of these, so they're actually quite nice and snug now. And I've been checking them after I fly, and not many of them have come loose. Some of them do, and I just give it about, I don't know, an eighth or a quarter turn, very slightly. I don't want to turn it too much, just to prevent the stripping of the motor mounts for the screws. So that's one thing. Also, a few things that you might want to know, I guess, in the flight times of this. I've been getting at about 3.5 minutes on the 300 milliamp hour tattoo batteries. I've cut the sticker of this because when you slide it in like this, the sticker gets caught quite a lot. So I like to leave, some people just take the whole sticker off, but I like to leave this on here just to know what it is, even though I'm pretty sure just looking at the blank battery like this, I know what it is, but that's just how I do it. And yeah, so that's a few things about the battery. Another thing I wanted to bring up about this quad is I've noticed that if I do take a hard crash into the ground, especially when it hits the top of the canopy here, especially if you're into the wall or the ceiling, or if you've just turned upside down and smashed into the floor, the VTX does cut out, it browns out, and it doesn't reconnect or it doesn't power up again. So I have to go and do the walk of shame, pick up the quad and unplug and re-plug in, and the VTX powers up again. So I'm not sure what that's all about, but that's what I kind of have to do just to get it to work again. So leave a comment down below if it does happen to you, and if you know why or what causes it, and maybe if there's any remedy to it. But at the moment it does still work quite fine after those events. You might be wondering now how much this thing weighs, so I'll put it on the scale here. I'll just power it up, move it in the middle, and I believe when I got this, it was around 17.7 grams, something around there. So I haven't done it this measurement yet with the change of the props, but I'll put it on now. So without the little protector of the battery, just the quad itself, no battery at all, it comes to 18.25, and with the little plastic cover or TPU cover for the battery, that's 18.6 grams. So that's quite a lot already. So from a dry weight perspective, I think that's quite a lot compared to the 17.7 grams that I did receive this quad from the factory. But that's the extra gram that, like I said, is something that I think I would like to accept as a sacrifice for the durability. I do note that I think the propellers of these ones here are slightly heavier than these. I think they're about, of all four of them together, they're about 0.4 of a gram, a bit more than these four here that you have, that I've just taken off. So that's just something to note there. And with the battery, so all up weight, I'll just add that on there, is 26.73 grams. So there you go. Okay, so that's pretty much all I've got here for this video today. That's basically all the mods that I've been doing to this. I haven't actually flown it yet. I might do another video of flying it with these propellers. I've flown it with the original propellers with some of those other mods already, and it flies great. I love flying this thing. It actually performs really well, and it's kind of like really tuned well to tight small areas. So I like flying this in the living room and setting up the dining table and the chairs and everything so that it's a little bit of a course, and it flies really well. I've bashed this thing quite a lot, so I try to freestyle this. I do flips and split S's and everything, all sorts of maneuvers like that, and have crashed this quite a lot, and it's held up quite well. So no damages yet compared to something like the original Mobula V2, Mobula6 V2. It always breaks around the arms of the motor mounts here, and you can see I've tried to super glue that, and yeah, so I've had a couple of these or a few of these already, and they've kind of broken all sorts of places there, and it doesn't take much to break. So going from that to this one here, it's been great. I've been loving flying this thing, and I hope it does hold up. It doesn't damage anything when I crash into it due to the flexibility of these prop guards. The props do take a little bit of a beating, but not too much. Just a few scuffs here and there. I haven't had any of them bend yet, so they do last quite a bit. One thing I do notice is the direction of the props when you do crash. It starts scraping the inside of the prop guards here, and it's starting to cut into the little plastic bit down here a little bit, but it hasn't cut all the way through yet. Hopefully that doesn't make it through at any point or weaken it, but it seems to be okay. But I'll just keep flying this, and hopefully they will release in AliExpress replacement frames. They should be coming soon. I think they've just got some production backups, I guess, at the moment, trying to pump these units out since a lot of people have been trying to get their hands on it. Okay, so that's all for this video today. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you like some of these mods. Comment down below if you think it's terrible, all these things that I've just been doing to it. But that's just how I like to do it. And hopefully it might help someone out there and see what you can do with it. So if you want some of these mods like the TPU cover for the battery, I'll put the STLs down below and this TPU here as well. Some of the products as well, I'll put some affiliate links down there, so I do get a bit of a commission if you use those links, but you don't have to. I don't mind. You can look up these products on AliExpress as well yourself and buy them there, but I'll put some of the details down below. Okay, that's all I have for you in this video today. I hope to see you in the next one. Cheers.